Hello.
Hi, so we're live. Hi, everyone.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, now I can hear you okay, and I hope there is no echo. Awesome. Hi, everyone. My name is Tamanna. Very, very excited to be kicking off this Community Leaders Spotlight series with Toni. Toni is a super inspiring community leader. She's a powerhouse, really. Uh, I'll tell you a little bit about her for those of you who may not know her. Toni runs several communities around DIY, do it yourself, in UK. She manages 10 communities with over 4 million members. And the first time I saw this, I was like, hold on, let me check what is the population of UK. And really, it's like close to 5% of the population is in Toni's communities. And I have the privilege to now be a part of her community. And Toni is just there all the time. So I was very fascinated by how does she do it? How did she manage to scale this? And Toni has also very, very successfully monetized all the communities. And it's a very meaningful and sustainable form of revenue for her. Again, I had the privilege of meeting her through one of the communities that we both are part of in a Facebook admin community. And just had to, I've done a user interview with her. I've spoken to her and heard her journey firsthand. Toni is a very grounded person. You'll not see her, flashing a lot of things about all the media coverages she's gotten, about the fact that she's a power admin of Facebook. She's a very, very down to earth person. And I just figured that we need to get her out here and listen to her story firsthand. So thank you, Toni, for joining us.
Thank you for having me. This is my first ever live as well, so I'm a little bit nervous. I can't lie, but I'm here to answer the questions.
Yes, and I'm always nervous too when I get in front of the camera, but really, there's nothing better than getting real stories out, and that's why we're doing it in the group, right?
Yeah.
So we'll try to cover your journey, your struggles, your monetization story, which I'm sure a lot of people want to know about, and really, what do you think it takes to get where you got, right?
Yeah.
And of course, plans for the future. So let's dive right in. Toni, why did you start a group on Do It Yourself?
So I did that because at the time I was working as a cleaner, 16-hour contract, minimum wage, and a single mum to 2 children at the time. And I didn't have the money to get a tradesperson into my house to come and do the work for me. So although the stuff with the launch of shops like B&M and Home Bargains, you could get the stuff really, really cheap, but actually the cost was getting someone in to come and do it for you. So I done it myself. And at the time as well, I just moved into a new house and I had to do every single room. So I set DIY on a budget up, April 2014 it was, and quite late at night, I woke up in the morning to 600 members. We grew very, very fast. We got 6,000 in like a week. The idea around the group was to just simply inspire other people. I had women in mind at the time because I didn't have anybody. I didn't have a partner. I didn't have brothers and my dad. They're super busy. Couldn't always come around and help me with stuff. So it was aimed at women to empower them to give it a go themselves. And that model flew. We're 7 years old now with 2.1 million community members in the DIY group. And actually we're still growing super fast. We get around 40,000 new members every single month. So there's no sign of it slowing down just yet. It's crazy.
This is fascinating. So after doing the job at home yourself, did you suddenly think, why don't I start a group? Or was there planning that went into it? Did you even know about a Facebook group?
Yeah, well, the social media platform back then when I started in 2014 was Facebook. Everybody was using it. So it seemed like the best place to start. So I looked for other communities where I could get some help to do my own decorating, like to give myself tips, but I didn't find that online. So I thought, well, I might as well start one. And again, I didn't expect it to go as crazy. I didn't plan to be a community leader. I've had to fall into that and grow with my group, I guess.
That's amazing. And when you got to 600 members overnight, and 6,000 in a week.
Yeah.
And that typically, I'm guessing, like in India, it could happen just because of the population, just saying, right? Just to put things in perspective, the population of UK is about 55 million, right? Yeah. So how did this fast growth happen initially? Like, was it something that you did? Like, did you send the link to your friends, or how did...
I don't think I did anything. I know that I was in a group, and there was a thread in there. I can't even remember what the group was called. And I spoke about this idea that I had with somebody else in the group. And I think a lot of people saw that conversation. So conversation's key. Always talk to people about your groups, wherever you can. And I think then they just thought, oh, that's a good idea. And they followed, because actually I didn't send out any requests to anybody. It just naturally speed rolling. But it was easier to build communities then. There wasn't as many. It wasn't such a big pond, if that makes sense. So
yes, yeah,
advantage there.
That's so. I think one thing is that there was clearly a gap, right? So anyone looking to start a community, it's good to start in a space where there is a gap in the market. Like you said, you could not find any other communities. So that's definitely there. And then, talk to people about your community wherever you go, wherever you are, offline, online. So that's
even out for dinner. I'm like, oh, guess what? People must get sick of my voice.
Yeah. And then what I want to know is, you said you were working 16 hours a day and you were a single mom. And I kept that question also later.
Not a day a week. Yeah, part-time work I was doing.
Part-time work. Okay. Yeah. And you have 3 kids, right?
Yeah.
You have 3. Yeah. And how did you initially, when these members started growing, like 6,000, and like, how did you manage just the moderation? Did you even know what like moderation means? It just...
No. I had absolutely no idea. And back then as well, Facebook didn't give us any tools. Groups were very overlooked. It was quite a new product. It had been, well, I say new, it had been around quite a few years, but we didn't have tools. I could see a member's request and I simply just had their name. So at first we were just letting anybody in. I was just letting anybody in, and then after a little while, I thought, oh, actually, maybe we should be moderating this a bit more to, and everyone's seen it. When nasty comments start coming into a group, that's when it kicks in that you need to sort of have a plan now. It's got a bit bigger than you thought it was going to, because I never believed, even when I got 6,000 in a week, that I'd ever get to this point. Luckily, though, our group grew with Facebook. So as Facebook were developing new tools for us, our group was growing and we were able to utilize the tools. So that helped moderating the group in terms of like member requests and that. And I was just doing it around my own job. I was doing it around my own work, as and when I had time. I couldn't do that now. It takes up all of my time. I need more hours in my day now. But then as well, I used the group for help. So I asked the members, would you like to help me with this? And you'll find that if you're doing sort of a good job and the members are invested, everybody wants to help you out. So I really used that. And a lot of the most active members in my group became moderators. Well, we didn't have moderators then. It was just admin. So, and they started helping as well. So.
Wow. So I think that's how all the good communities start and the journey that they take. So one of the takeaways again is ask the members for help.
Definitely.
Right? If it is adding value, then they would be willing to help, and then they're...
And also a lot of admin that I speak to are quite scared to ask their members for help because they don't know them personally. They don't know what... We can't read minds. We don't know if their intentions are pure. But don't be scared. They can't do too much damage without noticing. So give them a chance. Most of them in our groups don't last very long anymore. The amount of work that goes in. But definitely ask for help.
Okay, so I think that's a great takeaway. Even if you don't know them personally, don't hold back. Ask them for help. they cannot do harm. That's also important to know, because I hear that a lot. Admins sometimes saying that, what if they take over? What if they go and start another community? When, well, you cannot stop anyone, but it's the entire ethos and everything that goes into building a community, and not just that. So, and when did you get the first set of moderators onboarded then? So
I think I'd had it. It wasn't long. As I say, it grew really quick. It grew fast. I think I was about 4 or 5 months in when I first asked for help. And we didn't have back then even post-approval. So stuff was going into the group while I was at work. I'm not at home to moderate that. And it became apparent that actually somebody needs to be there when I can't. That was the main focus, the main reason I got help in. And I've met some amazing people through that. Some of them are like lifelong friends. I've got one lady, Carol, who popped up in the comments earlier. She was one of my first admin, and we're still going strong as a team now. She's like a backbone for me.
Yeah. I'm so like, I get goosebumps when I just the fact that you were working and I mean, it doesn't get any easy, right? And I can almost imagine, like, when you're saying this, the level of responsibility that you felt to approve posts while you're at work and you cannot do it. So it almost came like out of a need, but you acted on it. Right? Yeah. And when you talk about, hey, Carol, so Carol is here listening to us, and it's awesome. So you're saying Carol was the first moderator, and you guys are still together as a team, and that's amazing. So Toni, now tell me, how did from the first DIY on a budget? So again, guys who've joined in late, this was do it yourself on a budget. Started because of Toni's personal need, because she could not afford someone to come in and do the work. So she got on to doing the work herself in her house, and then thought of starting a Facebook group to help others. And today that's become a movement or a network, like Toni says. So tell me, when did you decide to then launch other communities around do it yourself, and why that thought came?
I think we've been going for about 2 years, maybe a year and a half, when we saw that actually the focus was have a beautiful home on a budget for DIY, but we were getting posts around cleaning, we were getting posts around gardening, and we were getting a lot of posts around crafts. Some of the members would then be like, well, I'm not interested in gardening, I've joined a home group. Or I'm not interested in how to keep my home clean, I want to know how to decorate my home. So really these were born from listening to the community. So then we've set up, so now we've got DIY, gardening, cleaning and crafts. They were the first 4 that we had, and they're communities in their own right now. They've got their own themes that run through, they've got their own members. They're all quite big. I think gardening's just about to hit 400k. Crafts is 100k. Cleaning is a lot smaller. I think that's around 30. But they're all communities in their own right. And again, just decided to do them after listening to the communities. And that's the main thing. If you're listening to them, or the majority of them, don't listen to them all. If you're listening to those positive points that the members are coming up with, then you're doing it for them, and that's what they want. So give it a try.
And how long after the initial community was this? So 2014 years.
Around 2016, I think we come with those extra 3. Yeah.
Got it. Okay, so again, I just want to keep summarizing the takeaways, and as I'm taking my notes from this interview, and so Toni decided to, we've spoken about this in the past in some workshops, that how it makes sense to have communities around, a network of communities around specific pain points, and build those breakout communities. So for Toni, she started it around gardening, crafts, cleaning. And I think the biggest takeaway for me here is listening to the community, right? It's so simple, right? People are talking and you need to listen. But it's not that simple sometimes, because they're talking a lot. So she also said, not everyone, but really listening with the intent to, figure out what to do to help the members. And in this case, you figured that DIY in itself is a big space, and there could be specific areas where you could form these communities. That's awesome. I think that's a great suggestion. I want to know, were you like worried on how would you manage these four? I'm assuming the people there's different people, right? Like not the same person would want to do gardening or crafts or
By then, I had quite a strong team of admin who all agreed to move with me to these other groups as well. So the admin team that we had for DIY then became the admin team for the other 3 groups. So we just really worked together as a team to get through the work. And again, they were new starters, so they wasn't as busy. Now we have a dedicated admin for crafts because that's extremely busy, and we have some admin on the team that prefer gardening over DIY, so they'll be more active in there. The other groups, it's kind of a dip in and dip out when you can kind of thing. They're still very much growing. So no, I didn't really worry. I try not to let myself worry about too much. We've got the approval button if we need it, yeah. If you utilize them Facebook tools, definitely.
That's awesome. So, and so these were the first 4 communities, and now you have 10, right? So how did the other 6 communities happen, and when did they happen?
That moves on to another point as well, is that by 2018, I want to say, what are we now, 21? We lost 2020, didn't we? 2018, I met the guys who own a community called On the Tools. They're a construction-based company, and George from Facebook put us into contact together. We realised very quickly that although our communities are opposite, our aim for our communities was very much the same. So if I'm DIY and they're more tradespeople, our aim was exactly the same. So we joined partners, and it was through being partners with them that I was able to sort of focus more on the communities that I was running, but that also opens me up to monetizing groups in a way that I hadn't been able to before. My first ever campaign I got was in 2016, I think, with a brand called DC Fix, and they are the sticky back plastic covering company. They're based in Germany, and actually Emma, the lady that was their marketing manager, I think, she stumbled across the group. She saw how the products were being used, and she reached out to me. And it was then that I quit my cleaning job as well, and that I really noticed, so actually I can make some money here. So I became, I was monetizing my group full time then from people that I met within the group.
Okay, so yeah, this was, I had this as one of the questions, because I know that's great. That's a great segue into so we'll talk about the partnership, right? How that happened and what that has led to. And because again, it's very, very unique. Like I have now, we've spoken to hundreds of admins, right? And I've, met so many admins at through the Facebook network, but there's not one person who I've met who's forged such a successful partnership like this one. So we want to learn more about that, because this just tells us there may be opportunities out there for everyone, right? And the second thing, of course, is monetizing, right? So 2016, we started with your first campaign, which was an inbound campaign. So the marketing manager was a part of your community, and then she reached out. And so just tell me more. And you I think you flew in to Germany for that campaign. Give us the details. We want to know what happened, because guys, this can happen.
And it was crazy to me when I saw her email. She was like, "Would you like to come to Germany and see the factory and meet everyone?" And I was like, "Yeah." And I was picked up in a car. I was taken to the airport, and then I was picked up in a very posh car the other side and taken to the head office, and I was put in this big boardroom. And at the time, I'm still a cleaner. Felt really out of my depth, but actually I didn't need to feel like that. Everybody I met was lovely, and we came up with a strategy and a campaign that would work for them as a brand, but also for the community. Because for me, I'd never set out to sell to them or advertise to them, and I was very conscious of the fact that we had to get that balance right. I didn't want to take away from the community that they'd built and then just go in and be like, oh, this is an advertising and selling group now. So the big rule that we have is that every single brand that we work for has to be on topic, obviously well established and with a good reputation. We don't want to be advertising any companies that we don't trust ourselves, but also to give the value back to the community in some way, so they feel like they're gaining.
Okay, that's so much substance in just that one sentence. And on topic, right? Which means the context has to be right, well established. So you're working, you took care to always work with well established big companies, and then trust and value on both sides is very, very important.
Yeah.
I want to just pick on strategy. So you said you went there and you're suddenly in this boardroom with like, I can only imagine the marketing heads, and I now talk to them, and even, I've been in corporate career my entire life, but I still sometimes feel out of place because
I didn't even know what a strategy was.
Yeah. So how that came about, and Toni, it is this, there's a section later where I want to get to about, like, just you, right? Like Toni as a person, because it's you that makes up, whatever, it's your persona, right? And one thing that I have observed in my interactions is that you're very yourself, right? Yeah. You're very confident of who you are, and you'll call a spade, basically, right? Yeah. That's so I want to know more about this. That, were you nervous, like when they said strategy, like what started flowing out? I'm sure they were expecting you to come up with ideas.
Yeah.
And have you worked on something before going?
No, I didn't know what I was going into. I know that I didn't sleep very well the night before, and I had all these thoughts going through my mind. But luckily they were quite open with what they wanted to get out of it. And then it was just about how do we fit that in to match the group. So, for example, they want to advertise their Christmas DC Fix. We're not going to do that in the summer. So it was just about planning the content that they wanted to push at the right times for the group. It comes quite easily, actually, because the group are massive fans of DC Fix. You'll often see people refer to our group as a DC Fix and glitter group, because they're top comments in the group. So for me, it was daunting but inspiring. I left that meeting thinking, like, wow, look what we can do. One of the more embarrassing points is as well that I had absolutely no idea how much to price a campaign up as. I charged them like £40 a post, but that took me away from my cleaning job, and I felt successful because I'd done it by myself. Now, that wouldn't happen. It's quite embarrassing to look back at, really. But everybody has to start somewhere.
Yeah. And so, that was my question. That so in terms of, it was a series of posts that you guys agreed to, and it was £40 a post. Yes. And then how many posts were there? Like, what was the total value of this first campaign that you landed?
I had to do a lot of posts. I think the value was around £10,000, but that was for the year's work. So, and then at £40 a post, I'd done quite a few posts for them per month. Yeah. And I did, but they gave me the content that they wanted me to post. Obviously we had some guidelines that they had to keep with community standards for Facebook and things like that, and not putting links in. But for me, it was quite an easy campaign to do because I just had to post it. I wasn't involved in the creative or the making of these assets. They gave me it all. So, and for me, I felt like I had a job, but I wasn't working, because I don't see my communities as my work. I love it. So I felt on top of the world back then.
Yes. So managing the community was never work.
No. I still don't really see it as work now.
I can tell that, I can tell that. And I sometimes wonder, when do you sleep? Because you're always on. So, So guys, Toni's first campaign was with DC Fix. She got a call. She got flown over to Germany because the marketing manager was in her community and she saw the value. And another important point there is that her members used to talk about TC Fix a lot, and she was always listening. So she knew that this is a brand that will resonate well with them. And she only charged £40 a post, right? It was £10,000 a year just for admins that are joining in from India. It's around 1 lakh rupees for 1 year. So it's not a lot, right? It's good, but it's not a lot. And for that, she had to do a ton of posts. She had to do lots of posts. But one important thing to note is she gave them guidelines. So for example, no link sharing, or she gave them guidelines. So I do have to say this, Toni, that it becomes very, very important because you set the tone of a campaign in the group, right?
Yeah.
And you set the trust with the members. So I think that giving guidelines, and I'm sure that's something that's continuing up until now, right?
Yeah. We've got content pillars, we call them now. So yeah.
And one question we get from admins a lot is that when they try to monetize with working with brands, a lot of brands tell them like, but show me the sales, like who will buy it, and show me like, what is metrics. And somehow they don't ask those questions on Instagram and other platforms, but they tend to ask those questions a lot in Facebook groups. So I'm asking this on behalf of our audience that's listening, because that's a question.
It's something that I struggled with back in the day. We didn't have insights either then. So they were basing the success of the post and the campaign on simple engagement, which we're not talking about that anymore. We're talking about how many eyes can I get on your advert, and how much would Facebook charge you to do the same. So I think, and also as well, if you're trying to target that demographic of sort of DIY people, women, you can't really do that with interests on groups on Facebook advertising platform. So we push that a lot. The amount of members and that we've got in our communities really do drive the client partners in the way that they pitch a campaign now. I'm very, very lucky that with the partnership with Electric House and On a Budget, I have been able to step back from that role, which was one of the reasons that I joined forces with them, because I was trying to play every single part of the business. So I was an admin, I was moderating, I was helping to create content and plan strategies, and I was going out and reaching out to companies, and I had no real idea how to do any of it well. I was doing it and I was having some success, but I didn't feel like I was an expert in any of those areas other than community managing. So joining force with Electric House really, really helped me. So if you ever get the opportunity to partner with somebody that has more expertise than you, take that help. I think asking for help, taking help and listening has been the reason that On a Budget has been so successful.
That's awesome, and a great segue into my next question. But again, one takeaway: take help.
Yes.
From, right, if you ever have the opportunity to, like, just go and ask for help for someone who may be able to do something better than you, because wearing too many hats can then it doesn't work for everything, right? And in order to scale, so you figured that you are the one who's best at managing the community, but all these other roles and facing off with the brands and answering the questions on comparison to Facebook ads and Instagram and all of this wasn't your strongest cup of tea. I want to move on to the partnership, but I do have one question before that, just closing the loop on the comparison bit. So how were you able to convince them? Like, what would be one tangible advice, Toni, for other admins if they are running a campaign, they get an opportunity? What do they show in the end so that the brands realize there's real value and not just a paid?
If I'm going from now, obviously use your app. I think the keywords tool in the app is absolutely amazing. So show the brand how many times their brand's being mentioned. And for me, it's a really easy one. It's like all these people talking about your brand, be it in a good or bad way, but you're not involved in that conversation. Why would you not want to be? Why would you want to miss out on all this customer building? and then they're like, oh yeah, we do need to be in there. And also as well, take sort of use your group as an example of who are they talking about, who are their favorite brands, and run with that. That's always where we kind of go first. We will approach the companies that are popular, and we sell it as we are not there to. It depends on their objectives, really. The company, if they want sales, if they want link clicks, we will aim to get that for them. But most of the stuff that we do is about brand building and customer focused campaigns, and they tend to work the best in groups.
Got it. So thank you, Toni, for sharing that. So for everyone listening, I do have to mention that. So Toni uses Convosight, and I didn't even know she's using the keyword tool to for this purpose, but it has been working very well for them.
Yeah.
And I do think that, you have this foresight, like Toni, and you're able to make the best of the tools and the people that you have and partnerships. You've just shown that in your journey, but it's actually meant to be a spam and a spam alert, keyword alert tool. But Toni and her team are using it very successfully to set up different queues to track brand keywords. And what she's saying is, now you go and you show that to the brand, and it's like, people are talking about you, and if people are talking about you, then why would you not want to come?
Yeah, or as well, if they're talking about your competitor.
Great point. Yes. So either they're talking about you or they're talking about your competitor, and in both cases, that's a very strong case to make a pitch. But right. So the takeaway there is that show them some form of proof to say that your target segment is here in the community, talking about you, and pitch them brand building and customer focused campaigns, and go first to the brands that members love, because that's where you'll see success. That was very helpful, Toni.
There's no forced engagement there. Then if you know that your group members already like this brand, and then what you do is you would use that as a case study to then go off to other brands.
All of this is gold. So whoever is listening, no forced engagement, build case studies, and further go out and pitch. It's super inspiring, Toni, just super duper inspiring. I feel so good. It's so good to hear this firsthand from you. Okay, Toni, now tell us about the partnership. How did the partnership happen? Like, just tell us some details, because again, what I want everyone to take away from this is, if there is an opportunity in front of them, A, to recognize it, B, to act on it without any fears.
Yeah.
Right. Because, hey, what will they take over? They're a big company, but would love to know, the details on how it came about.
Yes. So I first met George from Facebook. He is my upline into Facebook, I guess. And he was working with On the Tools. And again, he saw that we're very similar in the aims that we were trying to achieve with our groups. On the Tools had been already established. They were already creating campaigns. They already had quite a few staff behind them. And for me, my main issue was that it was just me. Well, not just me. I had my admin, of course, but I needed that extra help. So they had a production team. They had client partners that knew what they were doing. And they had marketing, they had design, they had creative. They had a system going that I needed. And what we've done is we've replicated that on a budget, and it's working extremely well. We had contracts that we signed. It wasn't just done as overnight. Oh, we're gonna join up. It's all been done legally. So I've got confidence in them, and actually on a budget has been able to really, really grow, because what that meant for me as well was that I now earn a wage that they pay me. I can then focus even more of my time into just running the community, and that's where the focus needs. Because if we don't nurture the community, who are we going to sell these campaigns to? The brands aren't going to want to go in if they haven't got a well-run and organised community to go into. So for me, it meant that the work that I was doing became even more important for them to be able to then do their job and come into the groups. But yeah, so it's worked really, really well. We were 2 years into this now, and I've even moved. I was based in the south of the UK, and I've moved up to the Midlands. I'm around 2 hours away from my family, but what it means is when COVID allows us, I can go into the office and be at the heart of On a Budget and help steer it in the way that I want it to go. So it's changed. Yeah, it's changed my life being a community leader.
It's changed your life being a community leader. Yeah, those words are just so profound, and again, can just feel every bit of it, like when you're saying it. This partnership just sounds like a dream come true, really, because from what you're saying, that they're taking care of all the sales and everything, and whatever campaigns come forth, now they can go to both DIY communities as well as on the tools.
Yes.
Yeah. Right. And you're saying there's a wage, so there's a compensation that you get as well as a part of the partnership, which that's amazing. And whatever revenues you get from the campaigns, you still, that's your...
Yeah, I'll get a percentage of that. Yeah, it comes in the form of dividends. So what we actually done was we set up our own company.
Okay.
So the owners of On the Tools and myself are now one company. So it works like that, and that's just so that we can work out what's coming from where and go where. It's just, that's the legal side of things. But it also means as well that On a Budget is growing as a company. So we'll get campaigns come in, but that means, wow, we can hire a member of staff. So On a Budget now has, I want to say around 10 members of staff that work solely for On a Budget, and without the help of Electric House, again, I wouldn't have been able to do that because I don't understand the legal side of hiring staff and paying wages, and because they don't really even understand all that. It's just that they've successfully built a team around them that know what they do. And one of the things we always say is, if you don't know how to do something, hire somebody that does and listen. It's amazing.
And listen is very important. Yeah, that's amazing. So there's 10 members in your team now of staff that's just working on the DIY communities, and overall,
yeah,
there's 80 members overall, right? In the
100 now.
100 members overall.
Yeah, we took on our 100th, if that's how you say it, member of staff last week. Yeah, so we grew by more than, I think, 50 members of staff in lockdown. So we've done extremely well even during lockdown. It's been amazing.
Wow. So these are the people who are working on DIY, on the tools, on community building, on sales. It's like a fully fledged company, and you guys have not even raised any external funding, right? It's all self-funded. This is amazing. It's profitable. It's one of the best community entrepreneur stories that I'm hearing right now, right? Even I didn't know this level of detail. And for this partnership, Toni, they had reached out to you, or?
Yeah, so George must have explained. So I met George, and then George knew On the Tools, and then he must have explained sort of what I was trying to do. And yeah, they reached out to me. They drove down from the Midlands to Essex to have a chat with me in a tiny little pub. It was all very social and relaxed. It wasn't corporate. They come in like their jeans and t-shirts. So yeah, it was nice, and they're all lovely guys. We got on really well, and it would have been silly to say no. Really, really silly. So we've just gone from there, and it's been growing ever since. And also, I spend so much of my time on my Facebook group that I never would have had time to successfully go on other channels either. So we're launching on other channels, and it's only been because I've got this team behind me now that we're able to grow there too. So hopefully more commercial opportunities will come up in the near future.
I'm sure they will. I'm sure they will. So just, my biggest takeaway here is that I think every opportunity that you get, just explore it with an open mind.
Yes,
right.
Definitely.
And in this case also, I mean, I don't know how I would react if someone shows up, and I probably would not be so open-minded, but that's what I'm taking away today from this part of the conversation.
Because for me, it was either do it or don't have On a Budget anymore, because I couldn't do all of it, and I was earning money, but not to the scale that I would have liked to, and not for the amount of hours that I put in. So that's the thing. Sometimes I think when you grow so fast, it's not always a good thing. So I don't look at other people's group numbers, and I shouldn't really say this because I'm like one of the biggest groups, but its success shouldn't be measured on the amount of members that you've got in the group. I mean, it's good that I've got 2.1 million, but also that can be a hindrance sometimes. So it's quality content, quality members, I would always put first. And that's something that if I could go back and start again, I would have moderated the people coming into my community that little bit better, rather than thinking, oh my God, I need to hit the million mark. You know what I mean? Because, and I think that helps more when doing campaigns, because you get, although I've got a lot of people in the DIY group, actually, if it was smaller, would I have more quality eyes on the content than people that really aren't quite interested? They just scroll by. So that would be a takeaway for me. Like, really do look at the members. Don't judge quality by the size, I guess.
Yes. So I think don't judge quality by the size, right? And I think one thing you said is, again, very important, that when you grow fast, it comes with its own problems.
Yes.
Right. But and that's when you recognize those problems and said that the best is to, divvy up the responsibilities, find a partner, get into that partnership. And like, I'm sure when you get into a partnership, you always think there's upside that you may be giving up, right? Like, if you were to hire someone who were to do all this for you, maybe 100%, you would have 100% upside. But then that's where these are all traits of a very successful entrepreneur, Toni. And you are a very successful entrepreneur who started out by building a Facebook group. This is so inspiring.
They have kept me level-headed, because I think if I had access to that money, I might have skipped off to Spain or somewhere by now. I've learned from them. They've taught me that this needs to go back in, and the only way we're going to grow is to put it back in and help.
To reinvest, yes.
Yeah,
discipline, financial discipline too. That's amazing. No, I mean, all of these things that you're saying, but I'm still amazed at, they say that it's where you get is the compounded effect of the decisions that you make every single day, literally. And it seems like you've made some very, very good decisions, in this journey since 2014, and also done it at the right time.
Yes.
Right. And while still maintaining the ethos of your community and still loving it. Right? Yeah. It's still day one, right, for you?
Yeah. It's hard. It's harder to join community, like to build communities now as well. It never used to be so difficult. And I think that's why DIY on a budget hit big numbers so quick. But obviously now you can't just add anyone to a group, where before you would just add someone and they would be in that group. Now they're invited. So with that, a point that I did want to say, which I actually wrote down, when Facebook decided that they were going to remove everybody from a group that hadn't interacted ever since being added, we only lost 33,000 people. So for me, I was panicking when I heard this was coming. I thought, oh my God, we're going to lose so many. But you got to remember that interaction could have just been a like, and that's the reason that member stayed. So what I took from that was, okay, that must mean that they are interacting when they see our content on the newsfeed.
Yeah.
So now a member will be invited to your group, and they will start seeing your content on their newsfeed. So what you now need to think about those invited members and create content that they want to, they impulsively have to now accept the invitation to join, to comment on that. And that's something that I took from that thinking this morning that I was doing. I was like, so that's why. And it's the best way of getting those invited members to become real members, and it's your content. So
if they see the content on the newsfeed. Okay, so this is a very, very good insight, guys. What Toni's saying is that because a lot of members have asked this question even in the community, that what happens to the invited members, because after a few days the invitations expire. What she's saying is that the invited members, till in the period that they are invited, would see the content on their newsfeed. And that's a great opportunity to lure them into joining the community, right? So it's really, and it's, you cannot just stage it like it's every single day, right? It's just, that's why the content quality is so important in a community. And that's actually a great, great suggestion and advice for that. Toni, what is the scale now? Like, tell us. So we know, and I saw the title, and we know that that's multi-million pounds. But
Yeah.
what is the scale at which we're a company now? Like, Toni is an entrepreneur of, founder of this business. And
By scale, you mean where are we going? What?
no, by scale, I mean like it's multi-million pounds every year. That's the revenue.
Well, we're only in year 2. We're only in year 2 of On a Budget, and this year predicted to be a multi-million turnover. So it's been a bit crazy. We've got quite a lot in the pipeline though. Like, so we're very keen this year on testing e-commerce to see how that works. I'm hoping for an On a Budget shop one day, online of course. I'm hoping to see my products in shops. I'd love an On a Budget range of, say, for example, paintbrushes. Would be amazing. Little steps like that. But also we're making our own content. So adverts from Facebook go into those. So we're starting to see a little bit of revenue, not a lot, but some coming in through that. And obviously if we can scale that, then that would be amazing. These are my hopes for 2021 anyway.
Okay, so what I hear here is that you want to diversify your revenue streams. So that's another great suggestion for all of us, that
of course, definitely.
Right, that let's diversify our revenue stream. What we have is distribution. We have a very engaged set of members that we are constantly spending. So Toni, even after having a 100-member team, she's herself day in, day out managing the community. And I see that all the time. Toni pops up on my newsfeed at least a few times in a day.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but this is just so inspiring. Like I there's so much I'm learning from this, Toni. Like, experimenting, having a vision. Like, you're not just saying, I'm going to test e-commerce. You're like, I want like paintbrushes, DIY paintbrushes, and I want to put them out in a shop. And if it is so, I'm sure you've, again, heard your members and you see what items they would love to get from DIY, right? So I think it's this constant, they say that at scale, it's like a Groundhog Day. You do the same things over and over, and you keep putting your insights, and diversifying revenue is a great thing, which we all should look to do. It could be anything. So like you said, and it may be very small, like Toni is saying that content, they've started producing content, and through Facebook ads, there's revenue, even though it'll always be small, but at least it's there as another revenue.
Ooh, yeah, On the Tools are doing that at scale. They earn a lot of money through that. So we're hoping to copy that known recipe for success, and hoping it works with On a Budget. Because what you need to remember as well is test. Don't just throw all your eggs into one basket. Test it, see what works. Again, listen to what your community wants. And don't be disappointed if it doesn't work. Not everything is going to work. Like, we were offered the Facebook subscription group. So we decided to help Facebook test that in the, I think it was at the beta stage. And my members didn't like it. They didn't want it. They didn't want to pay for content that they could access. So that got marked down as a fail, but it meant that we learned and didn't dishearten us to the point that we give up. Okay, well, what next? We'll try something else and go from there. So, and also I think what a lot of admin need to remember as well is that it's not overnight success. Yes. Consistency. And I think there's even been a few times where Carol, one of my main admins, had to kick me up the bum and say, Toni, you haven't been online today. Like, what are you doing? Because it can get on top of everybody sometimes, but take the breaks that you need and then get back into it. Yes.
So no overnight success, right? Take the breaks, but then get back on, discipline, and test. I love all of that, right? And don't be disappointed, because failures are stepping stones, right? So there's always a learning, and that brings me actually, I did want to ask this. So what is it that did not work? So I know you just told us about the subscription groups, but if you were to start DIY again today, well, I don't know today how the algorithm has changed in Facebook and what will but what would be the things that you would do differently?
And the first thing, like I mentioned on earlier, would be to really monitor who was coming in and out of the group. That would be the first one. The second, I think, for me, I tried, mine wasn't about what wouldn't work for my audience, because I think I'm at a stage now where it would, but I had an e-commerce shop before and I've had a blog before, but I wasn't fully equipped to manage those and run the group by myself. So the failure wasn't that the members didn't want it, but it was my capacity to fulfill those at a level that was good. I could do them, but dipping in and out of them every now and then wasn't enough to sustain it to something that was worth having. So actually, I think that I would have stopped trying to run, learned to walk before I could run. I was constantly going into these ideas because I had them at the time. And I thought, I have to have this set up tomorrow. No, you don't. Wait until you've got the support. And again, I would have asked for help earlier, I think. Definitely.
So, Toni, I now want to ask a question about giving back, right? And something that I have observed about you. So, again, we've interacted a few times, and although you're very straightforward, right, with your feedback, with again, calling a spade, but the one thing that I've noticed is that you want to give back, right? And I'll tell you guys, to whoever is tuned in, that Toni is one of the most active members in our community also. She's way more active than, yeah, she is. And I always see her as the first one to jump on to questions, whether it's related to spam. Like I remember one time there was somebody shared an image that had some, hundreds and thousands of views or something. And Toni is like, you know what, if you're an admin and you're sharing that, you need to give credit. So she's very straight with her feedback, but I can always see the intent behind that she doesn't want an admin to get flagged or the community to get impacted. So she's the first one who jumps on a lot of times, regardless of whatever, whether it's also sharing what Facebook has released, because she is a partner, she's Facebook's partner. But where do you find the time? And this concept of giving, is this your way of giving back? I
don't know. I like to see people succeed, and I think as well, some of the things that I see pop up into the group is mistakes I've made myself, and I would have loved somebody to have been there for me and said, actually, Toni, don't do that. You can't be sharing other people's content. Like you're going to get a strike, and ultimately that means that you're going to be put at the bottom of the list when it comes to Facebook ranking your group. And we didn't have any Facebook groups for Facebook admin back then either. You were going in blind. Facebook community standards were very wishy-washy, so you couldn't really even find what you needed to find on the internet to help you. So yeah, I guess it's nice to be able to just have someone to steer them in the right direction and not lose their group, because that was always one of my biggest fears, is to put all this effort into a group and then have it taken away. And I'd hate to see that happen to anyone, because it's quite difficult to get a group back if Facebook decides that actually they're going to remove it for whatever reason. So it's probably best to not put yourself into that situation in the first place. So yeah. And I like everyone as well. People.
So I think that's, just my takeaway from that, right? So of course, all of us love to see, we want to see everyone succeed, right? We want to see ourselves succeed, but we want to see everyone succeed. And, let's not assume that what we know, everyone knows that. So if, even if it means few minutes in a day, if we can help answering questions which others ask, and sometimes they're very basic questions, right? It may seem like, it's a very basic question, but rather than judging, let's just answer and help. And thank you for doing that, Toni. Again, there's so many admins in this community, some very, very successful ones, some not so successful ones, but there's a cohort of people I know on my fingertip because they are always out there helping. And you're in that cohort. So thank you I was talking to Aditya, about this, that I wonder how she gets the time, but she's so always there for other admins. And thank you for giving back in this
That's
way
okay.
to the community and admins. So I now want to open this up, for questions and see if we have any questions. But just before we do that, Toni, I did want to, I know we cannot disclose a lot of details about the book.
Yeah.
And so, yes, guys, Toni's working on a book. But do you want to tell us a little bit yourself, whatever you can disclose at this stage?
Yeah, so we're in talks with publishing companies about making an DIY on a budget book. Nothing's been agreed yet, but hopefully, fingers crossed, very, very soon, there will be a DIY on a budget book coming to shops near you, I hope. So yeah, I can't go into too much details with sort of like who we're talking to and what's going to be in the book. But yeah, fingers crossed there will be. So yeah, as well, one point from that, you can take your community offline. So that's what we're really excited about. It's going to be the first actual thing that we've done like that. So that's, yeah. I've had a really busy week of meetings and
I can imagine now when you said that I have so many ideas and I just want to, it seems like you do get around to testing a lot of your ideas, right?
Yeah,
I'm sure it started as an idea. All the best for that, Toni. And I'm sure we'll be the first ones to know whenever you can, right? So Toni will do a post in the community to let us know about that. Toni, one question I have from an admin is that what is your suggestion to admins who've just not been able to monetize? Sometimes they don't even get paid a single cent for their work, and they've been doing this.
That was me for a very, very long time. To keep going, just to keep going with your community, and it normally comes as well. And what you got to, I don't believe in my heart that every single group is monetizable. So really pick your niche and choose your content wisely. You need to think about what a brand wants to put their name to as well. So the brands that you come across and that you may want to work with are going to have their own policies and values. And I think that groups need to remember that when they're thinking about maybe one-time future monetization, because if you, for example, have a lot of swearing or bad language in your group, or your group's around a topic that is maybe 18 plus, sort of, borderline, you're going to find it hard. So I think, yeah, content and what was I going to say? Content and moderation, something to think about, but just don't give up. There'll be someone out there that wants to work with you. Well, also, what I did want to say is as well, don't worry about going for big campaigns straight off the back of. I've set up this group. I've got 10,000 members now, and I want to get the biggest campaign that I've got. Go out, offer campaigns for free, get that experience behind you, get those case studies behind you, and then the rest will become easier. I think one of the best things that I did, even though at the time it was a bit like, what, I'm working for £40 a post, but I got the experience and the statistics and the case studies behind me to then go, when I wanted to partner with Electric House, and say, look, my group can be monetized, I've done it. So yeah, offer things out for free if you can.
That's such good advice. Again, one takeaway that I would suggest to everyone listening who's had this question, let's work on something and have whatever, set your time, 1 month, 2 months, but not 6 months, and have one case study out.
Yes, definitely.
Work on something, whether it's free, whether it's like Toni said, it's not always, it could be something very small. Well, all of the other things that she said is also right. Pick your niche, but your community is already there, right?
Yeah.
Take care of spam content, but then just set an objective for yourself to work on one campaign, whether it's free or it's paid, and then build a case study. Right. So
case studies are gold for us. I mean, we will often do work in the group for free if we know that we're going to get that data and statistics, because that's what's really going to help us push forward. So yeah,
that's amazing advice. So I'm just gonna go and take. I know we're over time, so maybe we'll spend like a couple of minutes on questions. I'm the first thing you take your mind when you started this journey, and how much confidence you had about the success of this community. Just your so I think, Toni, it's your idea of success in simple words. And what did you first think? What was your first vision of success when you started the community?
For me, at first, I was quite naive, and I thought that the bigger my community was, the more successful that must mean that it is. But like I said earlier, that comes with its own problems, being so big. For me, success was, and it's nothing to do with money either, it was when people started writing to myself, to other admins, and putting posts on the group to say how impactful the community was to them. How they only use Facebook because of the community, and how the community has changed their lives in different ways. And to me, that's success, rather than thinking about the money side of things. That's what keeps me going anyway, daily. Yeah, to me, that's success.
That's such a beautiful answer, right? It's the mission, it's the purpose, and the purpose is to help members. That has to stay first, and that's what you were looking for, and everything else followed.
Yeah.
Right? It's amazing. If there's any other question, there's just so many. I'm trying to see the comments to see if there's any other questions here. Okay. I'm sure if there's questions, Toni would come back later and help answer those questions like she always does. My biggest takeaway from this, and what I've learned, is, really Toni's ability to identify each opportunity, act on it, at least experiment with it and test it, recognizing what her strengths and weaknesses are, and bringing someone in to fill in for the weaknesses, and really her immense discipline, right? That discipline of many years just doing that on Facebook, and yeah.
Do you know what drives that as well now? A lot of people said, well, you didn't earn from it for 4 years, however many years it was, or a decent amount of money. Why did you carry on doing it? And for me, it was, I didn't want to let anyone down. That was the main thing. I think if you care about the community, you keep going regardless of whether you earn from it or not. But that was the main pull for me.
I think that's just a great, that's a great, last bit of suggestion, that you care about the community, right? And you just keep going, because it's not easy. I heard someone commented here that, Indian brands are very miserly, they don't pay. But what Toni got paid from such a large brand in her first campaign was very little. It was very little for that 1 year. Very, very little. Just the cost of living in UK is much higher than India. So if you compare that to Indian terms, that was very little. But as she said, she took it and she made a case study out of it. So I think it's up to us. We've taken on this big responsibility of managing our community, creating impact for the members. And it's also our responsibility then to sustain. And it will happen. But I've taken all these nuggets away, Toni, today. Thank you so much. I'm just, and I just feel so good. I did not know the background. I did not know what you were doing before the community. And today I learned about all of that. I really have goosebumps. I will share my learnings and takeaways. But thank you. This meant so much. And I hope you enjoyed the first live that you've ever done.
Yeah. I'm still shaking a little bit. Amazing. But yeah, getting me set for telly one day. Hey.
Yes, I'm sure. Very soon when the book launch, right?
Hopefully, yeah. Amazing.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much, Toni. It's great chatting with you. Bye.
Later. Bye.